welcome back. So thank you for your comments. I'll try and, when I go over my own experiences, I'll try and incorporate some of your comments into that. So in this video, I wanted to go over Chris Packham's second documentary, Inside Our Minds, and this one is about dyslexia. I don't have dyslexia, but I have, as I said in my other video, I have dyscalculia. I never know, is it dyscalculia or dyscalculia? I always say dyscalculia, but some people say dyscalculia, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce that one. I think it's dyscalculia. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I don't have dyslexia. I have dyscalculia, which is the sort of like the mathematical equivalent, if you like. So this was interesting to me, just to see like the kind of, I don't know, it was just fascinating anyway. So Chris Packham said at the beginning that this subject is quite close to his heart because his own stepdaughter, Megan, is dyslexic. First of all, in the programme, he goes to Wales to Honfa Cynon Taf. Is that Cynon Taf? I can't read my handwriting. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, in Wales. Honfa Cynon Taf, I think that's it. Anyway, it's in Wales anyway. And he goes to visit. So that's the first place that's the first place that he travels to for his first case study, which is 53-year-old Lee, and he was only diagnosed a few years ago with dyslexia. He trained as a carpenter and he now works as a construction site manager. He avoids reading and writing as much as he can, and he's only ever read one book, Jurassic Park. His dyslexia causes him a lot of anxiety with his work. He often has to have a week off sick to just reset. And he enjoyed school, but only the practical side of things. He hated English. When the teacher told him to stand up to read a paragraph of a book, he'd panic. He could read, but what he was reading wasn't coming out. Outside of work, Lee loves singing with his male voice choir, but he struggles to learn the songs. It says, dyslexia isn't just about reading. It's a difference in the way brain processes information, making lyrics harder to retain. So it's not just about reading and spelling. They can also experience problems in a wide range of things, from memory to organisation. So that was interesting because, as I say, I have dyscalculia, which is the mathematical opposite. For me, it's the other way round. I find it actually quite easy to memorise lyrics. I mean, I have to obviously I have to focus on it, and I have to dedicate some time to it, but it's relatively easy for me to memorise song lyrics off by heart. I mean, it doesn't take too long, and takes me a relatively quick amount of time to memorise lines, say, like if you're memorising lines, say if you're, for like a play or whatever, not that I do plays really, but it doesn't take me that long. Whereas with dyslexia, it seems to be people often have this problem with memorising, scripts and things like that, so that was interesting. But the difficulties with things like memory and organisation, those things can also be found in dyscalculia as well, so there are sort of overlaps there. So yeah, but with Lee, only 4 lines. So say if he's memorising 4 lines, for example, in his voice choir, it can take him nearly 3 months to learn them. Just 4 lines, okay? Just 4 lines can take him nearly 3 months to learn, so it's quite a long time. And then Chris makes a point that although they both have neurodiverse minds, that's the word he used anyway, they work in completely different ways. Chris obviously doesn't have dyslexia, he's autistic. So if you gave Chris Packham a page of A4, and you give him like 5 minutes, he'll probably get it 95% right. Whereas Lee struggles with memory, he couldn't be on stage in a musical without some sort of prompt or something to help him memorise. As I said, that's completely different to me because I kind of have quite a very good memory for written text. If I am committed to memorising, I have to be committed to memorising it. It's not like I have to focus on it and I have to want to do it and I have to actively try and memorise it. But I am pretty good at memorising it. I kind of can actually consign whole textbooks to my memory if I am committed to doing so, which was very helpful actually when I was doing my GCSEs, because I really struggled with the whole kind of like organisational side and the whole kind of planning side. But my dad being a teacher, he basically wrote essays for me and then all I did was I literally just memorised them off by heart, and I could literally memorise sheets of paper off by heart because I can see it in my head. I think having synesthesia helps though, because it's all colour coded. I literally see it in colour in my head as well, so I can memorise whole textbooks basically off by heart and then just watch it out, and that's how I got through basically. So yeah, quite different there to the dyslexic. Sorry, just bear with me. I'll pick them up in a moment, that's great. Okay, thank you. Hi, sorry everyone, I just had to go and quickly attend to the post, which I'll pick up in a moment, because they've just left it outside the door for me. So where was I? So what I was saying was, where was I now? Yeah, I was just saying I have the opposite kind of profile in that respect to someone with dyslexia. That's what I was saying. Anyway, so that's the first case study, and then Chris goes to South London for his second case study in South London. He says that although Lee took a more practical career path, many dyslexic people do go on and thrive in more academic environments, but these so-called high achievers often become experts in hiding their struggles. So he goes to meet someone called Suki, and she's 35 years old and lives in South London, and she recently qualified as a psychotherapist, and she works as a counsellor in a secondary school. She lives with her 6-year-old daughter, Eliza, and they love painting and drawing together. And Suki was only diagnosed as an adult after returning to education to study for a degree. Her dyslexia wasn't spotted earlier because at school she spent every lunchtime and evening working in a bid to disguise her problems. So that's interesting. So very, very well masked there. Conversely, as I say, I don't have dyslexia, but I I have other learning difficulties associated with dyscalculia and other things. My learning difficulties were picked up from a very, very young age, kind of nursery school onwards. Yeah, it's interesting how dyscalculia and dyslexia kind of differ, or can differ. That's interesting. And also, I suppose it depends what other learning difficulties you have as well, like whether, you know, how kind of broad your learning difficulties are, I suppose, as well. Like, if your learning difficulty, I don't know. But anyway, she found it, she could hide them. Anyway, so that was interesting. But even today, literacy and organisation remain a challenge for her. It seems that organisation is quite a kind of common challenge across all of the learning difficulties. You know, if you think about it, dyscalculia, organisation can be affected, dyspraxia, organisation is affected, ADHD, organisation can be affected. So yeah, there seems to be a common theme. It makes me think that there must maybe be some like common kind of thread across all of these learning difficulties. Like, I think it probably comes down to executive functioning actually, and differing. Obviously, these are different conditions, but there seems to be some kind of like common thread, because it seems that organisation is something that is impacted across all of the conditions. Going to work can be confusing for her because there are so many small things she needs to remember. Does she have her bus pass, her phone? And when trying to schedule appointments, it can be terrifying. She often double books. For example, she might have two young people coming to her door at once, or she will think, why haven't I got anyone in? Because she hasn't scheduled them to come in. So yeah, there are difficulties here in short-term memory, sort of like, which is an executive function. It might take her longer to recall something. For example, if she's meeting up with friends and she might say, oh, I watched this great movie, they will then say, oh, what was it called? And she can't remember. It just goes from her head. Funny enough, I actually have that difficulty as well, and I don't have dyslexia, I have dyscalculia, so again, this might be a common theme across the learning difficulties. I mean, I have very severely impacted processing speed. So if I'm, say, talking to someone, I could talk really, really well, obviously. I think I could talk well. You know what I mean? I talk, that's how I process the world. But although I can talk well, I have this processing challenge where when I'm, say, with other people, particularly if it's in a group situation or it's not structured, but actually with any person really, and sometimes I'm like asked something or whatever, I just can't access the information, and it might be something that's like very basic, and then I feel like really stupid or whatever, because I've read loads and loads of books, you know, I know a lot of stuff, you know, verbally my intelligence scored very high. Nevertheless, when I'm with other people, I might not know something like really basic. I do know it, it's in my head somewhere, but I just can't take out that information. I can't access it, and it, like I say, it could be something very, very, very basic, you know, like really basic kind of pre-GCSE stuff that I just can't access it. I know the information, I just can't access it, and then I might say something, and then someone else might then correct me, and then I feel really stupid, and I'm like, but I actually know this stuff, it's just I can't actually, at that point in time, I just can't access it. So I think that might be a kind of common thread across the learning difficulties, and it's not because you're not intelligent, it's just simply you just can't access the information at that point in time. And then interestingly, and then she reveals this problem with Chris Packham when she literally forgets a question that Chris asked her 30 seconds ago, and she says she just can't remember what the question was. That often happens to me as well, and as I say, I don't have dyslexia or dyscalculia, so I think this is a common theme across the learning difficulties, which is interesting. She says, sometimes you get an idea and someone's talking and you desperately want to interrupt because otherwise that thought will just disappear. Yeah, I have that problem as well. I reckon ADHD might also contribute to that though. You know, the distractibility, not being able to keep on track of your thoughts sometimes can also cause that problem. And another common challenge in dyslexia is with directions and navigation. So Chris has arranged to meet her dad and daughter at a pub, and Suki doesn't know where the pub is, so she has to navigate getting there, and that causes her a lot of anxiety. Again, I can relate to that, particularly when I was younger. I do think, though, this has improved for me, but certainly when I was a kid, I had severe difficulties. I mean, this was actually flagged up by an educational psychologist. I had severe difficulties with navigation and directionality, like often getting lost and not knowing where things are. As I've got older, I think I have learned kind of strategies or ways of kind of like managing that, so I don't think it's as bad as when I was younger. And Google Maps are really, really, really good. And obviously I didn't have access to Google Maps when I was younger. But when I could go out, and obviously I'm housebound now, so it's impossible, but when I could go out, using Google Maps was a lifesaver. And I was actually very good at looking at Google Maps and consigning the information to memory, because I have a very strong... I'm not good at on-the-spot kind of short-term memory kind of activities where you're expected to kind of immediately access information in a fast-changing environment, particularly when there's lots of instructions involved and you have to work very quickly to someone else's directions. But when I have time to actually consign information to my long-term memory, I have a very strong visual long-term memory. My visual short-term memory is crap, but my visual long-term memory is actually very good. So if I'm consigning information to my long-term memory, and I spent a lot of time studying where something is, like looking at Google Maps, kind of taking that information, that visual information that you can see where, what it looks like, it all gets consigned to my long-term memory, combined with kind of verbal mediation where I'm kind of like writing notes and stuff. I can then, really good, remember where something is. It's all in my head then, because I've literally memorised it by long-term rote. But on-the-spot directionality, really bad at. If someone asks me where something is, and I haven't planned it or prepped it, it's very difficult then. And also if I'm so short-term crap, but if I can memorise it to my long-term memory, then I'm okay. But yeah, I think that difficulty with directionality, again, is quite common across the learning difficulties, as that was something that was flagged up when I was at school as a problem with that. But like I said, I've developed coping strategies as I've got older, so I don't think it's quite as bad as when I was younger. Okay, so I'm going to move over to video number 2 now, to carrying on talking about dyslexia. Okay, so moving over to video number 2 now.